Learning English with English Faculties.
Look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent underneath. Okay, let's jump right into this explainer by looking at that incredibly chilling piece of advice. It's one of the most famous lines in all of English literature, and honestly, it begs a massive question. What does it actually take to orchestrate a royal assassination, especially when you're doing it from the comfort of your very own home? To answer that, we're going line by line through one of the most thrilling, downright terrifying scenes Shakespeare ever wrote, Act 1, Scene 5 of Macbeth. We're going to translate the original, sometimes pretty dense 400-year-old text into plain, everyday English. Basically, we are going to witness a true crime plot unfold right before our eyes, guided by one of the most ruthless masterminds in history. So, welcome to the explainer. Today, we're unpacking Lady Macbeth's psychological transformation and her absolute masterclass in manipulation. If you've ever wondered how someone actually turns a loyal, heroic soldier into a king-killing traitor, well, this is the scene that explains the whole shebang. Here's a quick look at our roadmap for today. First, the letter and the worry. Second, Jacobean Gender and Society. Third, the chilling demonic soliloquy. And fourth, the Deceptive Murder Plot. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the letter and the worry. The scene opens with Lady Macbeth completely alone, reading a letter from her husband, who just came off a massive victory on the battlefield. And what's really fascinating here is the specific language Macbeth uses. He writes to her as his dearest partner of greatness. He tells her all about this crazy, supernatural encounter he just had. He met 3 witches who gave him a mind-blowing prophecy. He is going to become king. And he wants her to know right away so she can share in the excitement. He clearly sees her as his total equal, which, as we'll see, was highly unusual for the time. So, Lady Macbeth reads this and instantly knows she wants that crown, but she hits a roadblock. While she acknowledges his ambition, she's actually terrified of his personality. In the original text, she worries he's too full of the milk of human kindness to take the fastest route to the throne. In plain English, she's afraid he's simply too compassionate and good-natured to actually commit the treason and murder required to seize power quickly. He wants to win the crown fairly, but she knows that is just not going to happen. This brilliantly highlights a huge irony in their relationship, specifically through that metaphor of milk. Milk represents stereotypically feminine qualities, right? Kindness, purity, mildness, nurturing. Lady Macbeth is basically saying her battle-hardened warrior husband is entirely too gentle. He actually possesses more of these compassionate feminine qualities than she does. She realizes that if Macbeth is going to be king, she has to be the driving force. She needs to pour her own wicked determination right into his ear. Which brings us to Section 2, Jacobean Gender and Society. To really grasp why Lady Macbeth's behavior is so shocking to a beginner, we have to look at Shakespeare's world. Jacobean society, that's the era under King James I, was strictly patriarchal. Men held all the leadership roles. Women were legally and socially subservient, expected strictly to be housewives or mothers. Their primary job was just to nurture and obey. Fun fact, women weren't even allowed on stage back then, so Lady Macbeth was originally played by a young boy. So for this character to act as the mastermind behind a treasonous murder is a massive subversion of gender roles. She isn't acting like a dutiful wife at all. She's acting like a ruthless military general. Okay, moving into Section 3, the chilling demonic soliloquy. Right in the middle of her plotting, a messenger arrives with some huge news. King Duncan is coming to stay the night. The victim is literally delivering himself to their doorstep. Her reaction is immediate and super dark. She says the messenger croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan, comparing him to an ominous raven. In Jacobean times, the raven was a well-known harbinger of death. This realization triggers a complete descent into darkness for her. She knows she has to rid herself of any human weakness to get this job done. She then delivers what's called a soliloquy. A soliloquy is just the act of a character speaking their innermost thoughts out loud when they're alone on stage. Think of it as a direct window into her soul, revealing her true, unfiltered intentions to us as she hatches this deadly plot. And what she says here is absolutely terrifying. She actively calls upon evil, supernatural spirits to fundamentally change her biology and psychology. Let's look at how this builds in 3 horrifying steps. First, unsex me here. She demands to be stripped of all feminine mercy and gentleness. Second, make thick my blood. She asks them to physically block her veins so she won't feel any human remorse, guilt, or pity. And third, take my milk for gall.
Let's really focus on that last one. Gall is a bitter, highly acidic bile. It's the ultimate symbol of evil and poison. By begging these unseen murderous spirits to replace her nurturing mother's milk with poisonous gall, she is literally and symbolically rejecting her biological role as a life-giving mother. She is purposefully transforming herself into a monstrous agent of death. It's a total inversion of everything a woman was expected to be.
And she doesn't stop there. In the original text, she says, "Nor heaven peep through the blanket of the dark, to cry, hold, hold." Translated to modern English, she's pleading for the night to be so thick and dark that heaven itself, God, can't see through it to yell stop. She desperately wants to hide her knife from divine judgment. This perfectly taps into the very real, genuine terror of witchcraft and the supernatural that existed back in Jacobean England. She's actively aligning herself with the forces of hell.
And finally, Section 4, the Deceptive Murder Plot.
Right after this terrifying spell, Macbeth finally walks through the door, and the twisted power dynamic in their marriage is immediately on full display. He mentions that King Duncan arrives tonight and plans to leave tomorrow. Lady Macbeth immediately shoots back, "Oh, never shall sun that morrow see," meaning Duncan is never going to wake up. She takes absolute, total command of the conspiracy right then and there. Macbeth is visibly shocked, his face is giving away his fear, and she just instantly cuts off all his hesitations to orchestrate this imminent murder.
Which brings us right back to our opening quote. She instructs him, look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under it. Or, in modern terms, look like an innocent flower, but be the snake hiding beneath it. She urges him to maintain a completely deceptive appearance. He has to play the perfect, welcoming host to Duncan while secretly planning to strike. It's a metaphor that directly connects back to the biblical snake in the Garden of Eden, the ultimate symbol of temptation, deception, and evil. It perfectly highlights the massive theme of appearance versus reality.
Macbeth tries to pump the brakes, saying, "We will speak further," but Lady Macbeth shuts him down with a line that is just shockingly blunt and modern. "Leave all the rest to me." With that single command, she completely subverts all those societal norms we talked about earlier. She adopts the masculine role of the man of action, forcing her mighty warrior husband into the passive role of a follower. She's the mastermind, he is simply the weapon. So, what should we actually take away from this incredible scene? Well, first, Lady Macbeth's ambition completely overrides her natural morality. Second, she intentionally uses the supernatural to strip away her own feminine empathy so she can become capable of murder. Third, traditional gender roles are completely inverted as she takes charge to seize power. And finally, the theme of appearance versus reality is absolutely vital to making this murder plot work. Shakespeare masterfully shows us the terrifying lengths a person will go to for power, willingly shedding their own humanity in the process. As we leave Lady Macbeth standing in the dark, having just convinced her husband to commit the ultimate treason, you really have to ask yourself, if achieving your greatest ambition, your deepest desire, required shedding everything that makes you human and good, would you still want it? Would you still take the crown? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and we'll see you next time.